are now tuned into the Money Level Show.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Money Level Show. We're here at the Rule Symposium with Ross McElroy, who is the CEO of Fission Energy. Fission is a nuclear energy company that actually works in the uranium space. And so it's good to be in the presence of someone who's here, of a company I've actually invested in. And so how you doing today, Ross?
Doing well, thank you, Daryl. Yeah, it's great to be here with you.
Yes. So you have a lengthy resume. You've worked with some of the big names of Chemical, BHP, and many other companies. And so, like, what are you seeing now? You know, you being at Fission or whatnot. What's kind of like the steering the ship like there? You know.
Well, it's good. You know, I think one thing being involved in the nuclear sector, I think, is probably maybe, you know, as far as commodities are concerned, nuclear is one of the few shining stars out there. And but it's not only good right now. We expect it to be pretty exciting for decades to come because there's a true renaissance going on, you know, around the world right now, and nuclear is just continue to shine and be an important part. So busy, but good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So a lot of the thesis for the uranium bull market, I mean, we're in the bigger, I believe we're in the larger commodities bull market, but a lot of the thesis around uranium was the supply and demand. And so when the pandemic hit, we were very short on a world basis of like the demand for uranium and how much uranium was being produced from the mines and everything that was shut down. And so, like, what is the global macro outlook looking like for uranium right now?
Sure. I think, you know, put it this way, you know, if we go back to well over 10 years ago, we were in almost from about 2011 to 2020, we were in a real drought in the low points of the uranium market. And it had nothing to do really with the number of reactors to be being built, because that number just continues to grow and grow and grow. But from 2020 onwards, there's been a real push and an understanding that nuclear is clean energy. We've always known it, but I think that that's really got into the psyche of governments around the world. And that was when we started to see things change. The price of the commodity started to move up. But it's also highlighted a number of critical issues. And I mean, this is a real supply-demand game anyways, but the supply was constrained because of low prices more than anything. But now that the prices are getting a little bit better, there's a few more development stories in the mix. But we think we're at the early stages of a long uranium bull market. So, you know, it's a lot of little components and aspects to it, but we think we're, you know, in the early innings of a long game here in nuclear.
Nice. So what was the bull market like in the early 2000s? You were in the space at that time. What was that like for you?
Well, I think if you talk to any investor that had been in the game for a long time, you know, Rick Rule, for example, has said that probably the most money he's made in the business has been in the uranium bull in the early 2000s. And I think that story is probably true for everybody. I mean, equity prices, you know, absolutely went bananas. They went high during that, and the price of the commodity also ticked up to over $140 a pound. You know, from the low teens to 140. That was a tenfold increase in the price of the commodity. It didn't last particularly long at that price. It came down sharply. You know, I mean, it went up like a rocket ship, came down pretty tight. But the upward trend was still in the price of the commodities until 2011, which was the Fukushima event, and then uranium kind of had a little bit of a, you know, a gut check, we'll say, but it's back now and full action. So I think investors that would have made a great deal of money in the last uranium bull, they probably feel that right now is a similar bull building, but I think more importantly, it's much longer term now. It won't be a short-lived bull at all.
Yeah, so like I think Japan has some restarts, and then but at the same time we've seen like other, you know, I think Germany I don't know if they shut their last one down or something like that, but so like we're seeing like sentiment change, but then there's also still like this narrative of, you know, oh, that's bad, right? You know, so there's a lot of misinformation out there, and this is the cleanest form of energy, you know, out there from just what I've learned. And so, what are some of those misconceptions that you think mostly need to be cleared up?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you're right. Nuclear, I'd say it was generally, it had some fans and people that weren't fans, and it was all about, I think, to do more with the waste product. What do you do with nuclear waste? But a number of these aspects have been, the technology continues to get better and better and better and better. I mean, we see that in every, everything essentially. But I think nuclear is a very safe industry. The track record is actually amazingly safe. We know it is a clean form of energy, and we also understand in the push now for clean green energy, there's really no alternative to get off of the fossil fuel bandwagon to be able to, where are you going to get it next? Where do you get base load power? It must come from nuclear. So I say that we've seen the governments around the world in all kinds of countries change and start embracing and adopting nuclear as part of the policies going forward. So that was something we hadn't really seen before. There were a few places that liked nuclear, a few didn't, but I think now there's a much general consensus that nuclear is a key part of the energy going forward. And particularly, we're electrifying everything in the world. Automobiles, houses, I mean, every aspect of how we run society is all electrical based and continues to do so. And we need to generate clean, green energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So like you mentioned baseload power. So like obviously we have a transition towards clean energy, and wind and solar has been talked about a lot. But those are weather dependent and things of that nature, and they don't operate as a good baseload power. We've seen blackouts, brownouts, and things of that nature. And so, how does nuclear give that solid baseload power that we need, and then you can have other clean forms of energy on top of that?
Well, nuclear, I guess it's like fossil fuels. You have 24/7, 365-day a year power. So this is the benefits of a nuclear power plant. Is it's on-demand electricity as you need it. Solar and wind, well, you need the sun to shine, and you need the wind to blow, in certain environments in certain places. It doesn't happen 24/7, but it's not only that, it's also prohibitively costly and an unreliable source. I think there will always be a place for all kinds of different mixes into the energy stream, but when you're really talking about the getting off of fossil fuels, which is right now dominantly where you create electricity or the power for electricity, nuclear is really the only viable alternative out there. And I think the investors are recognizing it. Certainly the governments are recognizing it. And I don't know, I think we couldn't be in a better place than being involved in the nuclear business.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of retail investors, so a lot of my audience reaches the people that are the average investors, and they invest in companies like Fission and other companies or whatnot. And there's been a lot of hype around uranium, but now and then we've seen a lot of washout of like investors, but the thesis is still there. The thesis is still strong, and it's almost the inevitable, right? And so what kind of wisdom would you give people that come into the space and obviously are they hear the stories of the early 2000s bull run, they experienced some of it from the 2020 to 2022, right? And uranium has been trending up this year as well. Mm-hmm. And so what kind of wisdom do you give like the average person that gets into this space, that gets super excited, but it's a long process for this to play out? One of the other aspects that's say different now, and I think investors have to be conscious of it all the time, is what's sort of changing in the nuclear sector, I suppose, but I mean maybe with a number of other areas as well, is a less emphasis on globalization. In other words, I think there's more of a bifurcation in the nuclear business right now. So I think people need to look at jurisdictional risk, number one.
right now, the majority of uranium is produced out of Kazakhstan. The majority of uranium is enriched in Russia. I think for North American utilities and assets, you want security of supply and source to be able to, that you can measure in years and years and years and decades. It needs to come from a politically friendly environment. So, obviously there's strain on the relationships, with Russia and maybe the transportation of uranium out of Kazakhstan is also affected as well. So I think you'll start seeing more and more emphasis on North American deposits and source for the Western utilities, Western meaning North America, European. And so I think, having projects, you look for companies that are well managed, have development scale that can be important suppliers in the near term for the utilities in the Western world is absolutely key. And this is really what highlights our company and our project. We're in Canada, we're in the Athabasca Basin. We've got one of the biggest uranium deposits out there, but not only size, but high grade, which means the economics are tremendous. And really our advantage over just about every other project out there is the ability to be a low cost producer. So your margins, your profitability margins are superior to a project such as we have in Fission as compared to just about anywhere in the world. So that and a management that has a proven track record that can bring projects forward and make money essentially for the investors. You want that track record. You want a solid company, solid tier 1 asset in a tier 1 jurisdiction with a top management. Those are the things I look for in just about every investment decision I make, and I think that Fission holds that kind of value for people.
That's good. So you've been a geologist for a long time, and you've worked at a lot of different companies, right? You've been in the natural resource space for years, decades. So what was it about Fission that drew you there? I mean, I think you mentioned a little bit of that in just what you just said regarding the high quality of uranium, but what attracted you there?
Well, I started my career in the mid-1980s working for Cameco. So I got started as a geologist working in the Athabasca Basin looking for uranium deposits. I was successful with successful teams there. We made the discovery of McArthur River, which to this day is still the world's biggest, highest grade uranium deposit out there. And I had probably the first half of my career was spent with major mining companies and went to work with BHP and learning the ropes on how what's a good project and how do you move a project in from discovery to development to mining. I mean, this is really what my experience was, and to be able to come back into the uranium sector with a small company, and we got started and made discoveries in Fission. We've been able to find a world-class deposit. We know the steps to go through development and ultimately to turn this into a mining operation. So I think it was just fun to get back into the uranium business again during the last bull run. But we've been in it for the company's been involved in uranium exploration and development for some probably 25, almost 30 years now. So it's just an exciting prospect here, and it's fun to be back in the Athabasca Basin where the world's best uranium projects are, and having what I'd say is probably the best project in the Athabasca Basin. Couldn't be in a more exciting spot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Ross, there's so much more we can learn from you. You have so much experience and wisdom. We definitely got to have you back on at some point. But where can people find more about Fission? Where can they find more information?
Sure. Well, our website is probably a great place to start. So fissionuranium.com. But we trade on the TSX. So we're a senior listed TSX company. So FCU on the TSX, and we also trade on the OTC markets too for the over-the-counter exchange as well. So lots of good information in there, but I think if you go to our website, it's a really good starting place to get a sense of the company. But I think more importantly than that, you'll find my contacts on the website. And I'm happy to personally chat with everybody one-on-one. It's and plus our investor relations department is very strong. Everybody's approachable. So, if you can't get what you're looking for on the website, you're looking for more information, just contact the company directly and I'll be more than happy to speak to investors.
Nice. Well, thank you for coming on, Ross. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Harold. Pleasure.